Welcome to the next podcast with Jay Cookingham, a heartfelt journey through grief, loss, and healing. After the devastating loss of his wife, Christine, Jay shares his raw, honest reflections on navigating life without her. This podcast explores the power of grief as a medicine that teaches resilience, invites lament, and leads us to discover God's presence during sorrow. With grace and vulnerability, Jay offers hope and encouragement to those walking through grief, reminding us that we're not alone on this journey of healing.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the next podcast, where we have real conversations about moving forward with grief and loss. Hopefully, learning how to navigate, embrace, explore, and trust on this journey with grief. I'm your host, Jay Cookingham, and I'm grateful that you're spending a few minutes with me here today. I apologize for the small delay between episodes. Trying to write, record, and produce a podcast sandwiched between two major men's events that I was speaking at, and adding pastor life duties has been a bit of a challenge for me lately. And you throw in my own grief processing, which takes a lot of energy, even if you're processing well. All of it combined to make recording difficult to get done on time, and a lot of other things as well. Thankfully, it looks like I can get back on schedule and maybe even stay on schedule this time. I do want to pause and thank all of you who have reached out to me recently and sent beautiful and very kind comments about this podcast. I'm thrilled to hear that God is speaking to you on your own grief journey, and you're finding what I share about my journey helpful and encouraging. I am really, really grateful for that. It's what I pray, and it is what I hope for. So I thank you for your kindness. Another piece of exciting news, well, it's exciting to me, is that I released my first children's book and seventh book overall. I did this last month. I released Clarence the Lion, A Story of Friendship. It's now available on Amazon, and I'm so thrilled. This is a huge victory for me because my wife, Christine, wrote this book many, many years ago before we even had kids of our own. I did the illustrations way back in the 80s. Remember the 80s? I think I do. And we always wanted to release this book into the wild. I was finally able to bring her story to life and have it published. It's just another way for me to honor her memory, and to keep her voice alive, and for me to process the loss as well. Yes, I do wish we had completed the story while she was alive. But I do feel she would be happy to see children reading Clarence. And this is happening now. And so I am very grateful to God for his timing. One more bit of news before we dive into today's topic. My grief devotional, called Next, Lamentations and Devotions, is nearly ready for release. It's been written, but it needs some more seasoning and some editing, and I hope to have it published and ready before the new year. Stay tuned for further updates, and I would covet your prayers as I try to finalize this project. All right, let's dive into the topic that I'm excited to share about today. Last episode, we talked about learning how to love life again. We explored the holy tension between joy and sorrow, and the need to choose joy even when it feels like we maybe were betraying the memory of our lost loved one by enjoying ourselves. But what happens when that choice feels impossible because my entire foundation has shifted? I mentioned the intense personal tension of feeling like I'm still married, but knowing that I am not. The feeling of being out of sync and lost without the anchor that my marriage was for me. So I need to and I want to be honest with you about where that deep confusion comes from. I am confused. Days I'm very confused. I wanted to be her husband. I wanted to stay her husband forever. There was and is no part of me that wanted to be apart from my bride. I strove to be faithful and pure in my love for her. I wanted that to be forever. And I can't be that husband anymore. I can't be that husband anymore because she has gone home. And that, friends, is the heart of my confusion. When the life that I was very certain about, the marriage, the role, the identity, is gone. I was left wondering, who am I now and how do I live this life? And this is where I run right into that comparison game. I look at my present life and it pales in many ways in my thinking and in my emotional state. It pales to my former married life. I hold up a beautiful full memory of the past and I use it to measure the confusing empty reality of the present. And for a long time, I felt guilty when joy crept into my new reality, as if smiling somehow dishonored the pain or diminished my love for Christine. I thought I honored the love I lost by rejecting the life that I still have in front of me to live. But grief has taught me this. Embracing joy isn't betrayal. It's embracing evidence of the love that I had. The challenge isn't forgetting the person I lost. It's carrying their love forward into the life that I'm still living and learning how to live. The reality is that I will grieve forever. I will learn how to live with it. I will heal and I will rebuild myself around the loss that I have suffered. But I'll be honest, it's around the loss thing, that term around the loss thing that I hate. I wanted to build my life around my wife, not rebuild myself around her death. Rebranding my life, finding out what kind of man I am now is confusing at times. There are days I wonder how much more I can bear. Even though I'm approaching the 6-year anniversary of her passing, there are days where I wonder, I don't think I can take this anymore, Father. And that's it, isn't it? The feeling that I'm being forced to rebrand my life. But here's where the shift takes place. The goal isn't to make the new life better than the old one. That's a comparison game that I just can't win. The goal is to make this new life work, first by accepting it, and then finding evidence of God's grace and God's goodness in it. So how do I make it work? For me, I have to stop waiting for the old anchor to come back and start to find new ways to anchor my life going forward. The out of sync feeling is often a loss of my routines or my rhythms, the quiet, predictable way that I move through the day, through the weeks and months and years with my person. To start loving this life again, I must establish new intentional rhythms. This is a physical, mental, and even spiritual act. It's a step of faith. I had to learn this over the past 5+ years. When Christine first passed away, I wanted to sell our house immediately because she was no longer there. The house that I have, the house that I enjoy and thank God for, cannot be the same home that my bride made it. But it can still be a safe, emotionally secure place that provides peace and sanctuary for me. To me, this is being a wise steward of my emotions. It is a process of moving from a past that can no longer be to creating an environment for my present and future self. I'm still honoring what I lost and still figuring out how to move forward. It's not easy, but it's necessary. So I want to share some of my new anchors and see if they resonate with you. So I have been creating a new morning ritual. I create a ritual that honors and accepts the quiet of Christine not being there, that kind of quiet. And I miss I'm lamenting the missing that conversation. So for me, working through this and creating a new morning ritual, for me this means maybe a special journal entry of conversations with my wife. I write a morning entry addressing her directly, sharing my thoughts, what I plan to do that day, or I talk about a memory that came to mind. This mental emotional exercise, oh man, it provides an outlet for the missing dialogue while integrating the new quiet of my mornings into it. I see it as a curated moment of remembrance, a way to process emotions and thoughts and then release them to God. I choose to enter my new silence with intentional ways of remembering my wife. It gives me new meaning and purpose for those moments that she used to fill with her voice. Obviously, it's not the same, but it can still be meaningful and healing. And then I work on reclaiming my space. I'm not just filling the emptiness, but making my home a sanctuary for the person that I am now. It may mean painting or decluttering new pictures, and it's meant all that for me. Or maybe just simply rearranging the furniture, which I've done that as well. I know this house I now live in will never be the home that my bride made it. I know this. But it can still, like I said, be an emotional safe place for me. I got to reclaim the space. And one of the ways I do this also is to embrace my creativity. I've talked about this many times before, but it's really, really crucial to embrace something that you can creatively express yourself with. And one of the ways that works for me is writing poetry. To me, it's a form of worship. It's a form of worship where I bring words and lament and praise and complaint and everything. I fuse them together that speaks deeply into me. It's choosing to breathe life back into my heart, my spirit, my mind, by writing words that remind me of God's goodness, not just my struggle. I feel like my creativity aligns my heart with God's. It opens up my heart for Him to comfort and speak into. It's a way of saying that even in this deep sorrow, I am still a creative person, not just a passive recipient of pain. I'm taking the raw material of my grief, I'm letting God use it to build something new. And I love that process. In a strange and maybe funny way to you, turning my grief into poetry honors her. It shows that the capacity for deep love that she helped instill inside of me is still alive in me, and I'm using it to create something beautiful. So when I establish these small intentional rhythms, I am actively choosing life and allowing it to teach sorrow to dance inside of me, which helps anchor me to the truth of who God is and who I am in Christ. Look, the struggle with singleness is real. It's so real to me. I don't like being single. I so enjoyed being a married man, especially being married to Christine. But the path to joy isn't finding the joy of being single. It's realizing that my worth and my value and even my security, they're not tethered to some marital status. The core of my stability, my anchor, is in the joy of being His, being God's son. This is the gigantic secret of my life now. That true deep joy is an inner God-centered contentment that can exist even during suffering. We must remember who we belong to. This faith is the true, unshakable anchor. It's what allows us to trust in God's promises and His plans when things go crazy and wild and seem like they're full of chaos. I had a friend send something very precious to me in the early months of my grief journey. It was just a small text message, but it said this to me. You are courageous, Jay. You are walking through the worst hell, and yet you stop to take notice of the pain of another. Can you see the depth of a man? Can you see the depth of a man that God has forged in you? When I first read that, my reaction to that was immediate and raw. I couldn't see it, and I didn't see it. It took time for me to slowly see the truth in that kind of statement, in that very kind statement. So there are days I may not see the man that God is forging or the character that is being produced. I can only see the pain. But I must lean on the promise that joy is not the absence of sorrow, that it is the presence of hope. It all comes down to trusting God to define how joy, life, and love mix with sorrow. He's the only one that can help me learn how to love life again and learn how to be single again. Learning how to love life again isn't about forgetting. It's really about remembering well. True healing doesn't mean getting rid of the past, but rather learning to live with it as I move forward. And that means starting with gratitude. Gratitude for the breath, for the beauty, and for the wonderful evidence of grace that shows up when I least expect it. Psalm 16:11 reminds me, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand there are pleasures forevermore." The path of life is not hidden from us, and I love that promise. So wherever you are today, maybe you're confused like I am at times. Maybe you feel out of sync like I do. Can I encourage you that this week, maybe even today, to start to identify one small new intentional rhythm that you can establish, and let that be the first step in building a new anchoring moment for your life. And I would love you to remember this, that God is good, that God is always good. He always answers out of his goodness. We just need to trust his definition of good as we move forward. Thanks for walking with me today. I'll see you next time right here on the next podcast.